of these work? All right, and mobility as well. Give me 1 second to get my timer going so that I have a visual cue of how long I've been talking. First of all, that was a fantastic initial first talk, and I'm glad that she's left time to answer questions at the end, because I'll be doing this similar. I think answering the questions is a very good way of getting what questions you have answered. Is this loud enough? Can you hear me okay, or am I kind of coming in and out? Is it all right? Okay, lots of thumbs up. Okay, so the title of my talk, the utility and futility of planning your career. I think there's both utility and some futility in the sense of planning, and I hope to talk about this at some length. So I wanted to give first a shout out to some sources of inspiration. Sources of inspiration for this talk. So this is a number of books that I recommend, and don't worry about writing this down. So if you see the text on a slide and you think you want to have this for yourself, I'll have a link at the end of this last slide I have, which has a URL where you can grab all the slides as well as some extra supplementary material as well. But anyway, there's a number of books here that I think are very good and worth the investment in your time reading them and considering how they apply to your career and your situation. I have some meta tips, not only for my talk, but actually for the whole day. I participated as a participant in 2 career conferences at UC San Diego when I was getting my PhD 6-7 years ago now. So first thing is, it is an important one, have a system for implementing what you've learned into changing how you behave. And there's basically 2 steps for that, as far as today is concerned. So step 1 is take notes. Take notes about your thoughts. If anything comes to mind, not necessarily what I've said, but maybe I've triggered a thought in your head or a question that you want to revisit later. The second step is actually deliberately setting up time on your calendar to review the notes from today. And it can be later today, or it can be this weekend, but do take this extra step of taking time to review the notes and the thoughts you've had throughout the day. I think it'll serve you well. There's a slide that says this kind of point, I think, in a much more poetic way. This is going to confuse me. This is a quote: "The acquisition of knowledge doesn't mean you're growing. Growing happens when what you know changes how you live." So this is just hammering home that one. All right, so who am I? You got a brief introduction from my introduction. So I got my undergrad degree from Vanderbilt University in 2005, triple majored in math, physics, and philosophy, so a bona fide nerd through and through. I went straight into grad school and got my PhD in astrophysics 6 years later, 2011, from UC San Diego. And then I did a 3-year postdoc at Swinburne University, which is in Melbourne, Australia. This is my academic history. After this postdoc, I then transitioned into the industry, the tech industry. Did that by did an Insight Data Science Fellowship, which I'm happy to talk about more about in detail if you have any questions. And then from 2014 to the past 2.5 years, I've been a data scientist, and I'm now a senior data scientist at a boutique consulting firm named Silicon Valley Data Science. That's the name of our company. It is a descriptive name. We are in Silicon Valley, we do data science. And we've had a great time with that. So that's my history in a nutshell. But I want to talk a little bit directly to the title of my talk, which is the utility and futility of planning your career. There's aspects of it that I think you should plan, and you should take the time to plan. And so I hope to demonstrate that by indulging me for a few minutes with a story about a piece of my career that I think has gone pretty well, and how I ended up getting there, and what aspects of that were planned versus what aspects of it were not planned. Okay, so the story is, I did a 3-year postdoc in Australia. I started in 2011, ended in mid-2014. I made the decision both emotionally and intellectually to go from academia into the tech industry. And so having made this decision, I spent the last couple of years especially deliberately gaining the skills I knew I had, let's call it opportunities for growth that was going to be needed in the industry that I didn't currently have as an academic. Among these were computer programming skills and things of that nature. As an astrophysicist, I spent time analyzing data using computers all the time, all day, and I would say, fairly proficient with respect to an academic astrophysicist. But when it comes to landing in, say, the Bay Area to do programming work, that often falls far short. So I made it a deliberate practice of mine to get better at both programming and learning the tools of the trade. One of the things that was coming to be popular at this time, and is incredibly popular now, is a thing called the Jupyter Notebook or IPython Notebook. It started out as the IPython Notebook. What it does isn't really important. Basically, it's an interactive data analysis platform. It's open source and it's free, and it's very popular both in academia and in the tech industry for doing data science work. And I decided to make this one of the things I was focused on getting better at. To do that, as I was working as a postdoc, I was at the Center for Astrophysics and Supercomputing, meaning there were about 30, 40 astrophysicists there, mostly grad students, a number of postdocs, and professors as well. And I took it, it's somewhat perhaps silly, but I decided to, as often as possible, try to help people with their programming situations. They had Python codes or some sort of bug in their code. I would take time out of my day to go and talk with them and figure out how to either improve their code, and a number of them were very good at programming, and I learned quite a bit from them as well. This gave me some exposure to how people were using this IPython Notebook in particular to do their research, and I noticed a number of common, let's say, blind spots in how people use this tool, and I had some tips and tricks that I was finding myself repeating to people, that, oh, I see that you're doing this, this is a common thing, if you do this instead, it will make your life much more efficient and much easier. And it was really just noticing that, and it led to something very small, really, actually, incredibly small, and that is, in 2014, so the last year of my postdoc, I gave a lunchtime talk on the IPython Notebook. And it's just to the center that I was working at. It was a 20-minute talk over lunch, very informal, and just said, here's 20 minutes. I've been seeing people work on this using the IPython Notebook. I think I have some tips and tricks that will be helpful for you. I just offered it out there, and I actually expected it to kind of end with that. That wasn't anything. There was no grand plan here. This is the overarching idea. Unbeknownst to me, there was a person in the audience who was actively coming up with a curriculum for what's called the Harley-Wood Winter School, which is that second thing there. It is it's a winter school for first and second year astrophysics graduate students being held every year up in Sydney. And they asked if I would develop an hour-long version of my talk for that conference. And so I did. I spent quite a bit of time and polished up what I had done from an informal talk to much more polished presentation, and with the explicit goal of teaching people who are pretty new to this, or completely new to this IPython Notebook thing, and getting them to be relatively useful and getting them up to speed fast. And I had a very good response to that when I gave that talk. So I had a lot of encouragement just internally, which was nice. That was the last month of my postdoc. I then moved back to the US, and in September of that year, I started Insight Data Science. Insight is, you can think of it as a boot camp. The basic idea is it takes people who are in academia and want to go into data science, the kind of 8-week, 2-month path to help consider it like a finishing school, perhaps, of going from academia into the industry. When you're there, so you have about 30 colleagues, and everyone is in the same situation as you are. Every one of you has a quantitative PhD and is looking to go into industry. It is an incredibly busy time. Everyone's working on their own personal projects, but at the same time, it's a very collaborative environment. So if someone comes across a problem they have, they kind of just shout out to the room or ask people, hey, I'm trying to work on XYZ, can someone help me with this? And if you happen to have a few moments of time, you can help them. You can just do BBC, and you can get that going forward. So it's a very nice and collaborative environment. People learn things very quickly. And I actually found myself, because I'd spent quite a bit of time thinking about it already, coming up and being helpful to people on using the IPython Notebook tool. And so in the first couple of weeks of Insight, I offered to the program directors of Insight, I said, I have an hour-long talk where I can go through and explain some stuff. And if I had these same ideas in the head that I hadn't developed a talk 2 months prior, there's no way I would have given anything, because there was no time to develop and to give a talk. But since it was already done, it was in the can, if you will, it was just an extra hour of my time, and I gave that talk at Insight. And that was also well received, and so since then, every session of Insight I've come back, except for I think 2 sessions, I've come back and given this talk to every single session, this hour-long talk. And so that's been kind of a recurring theme here. I did not plan to do that, even when I gave that hour-long talk. It was more at Insight. It was mostly, I think this is useful, a useful way to spend your time, and a useful way to spend my time. We'll both get something out of this. And you can fast forward a little bit, and the following summer I gave a talk on what it was then called the Jupyter Notebook. So it's the same thing, just it's been rebranded. The thing that is interesting that came from that is O'Reilly Media got in contact with me after seeing the OSCON talk. OSCON stands for Open Source Convention. It's an open source computer convention. They said, "I like what you did there. Can you make a course for us?" And this is a much bigger time commitment. This is no longer one hour talk to college. So I had a 3+ hour screencast course that I did for O'Reilly, and that got published last March 2016. I've also given lectures at Berkeley, and I'm giving a Stanford Continuing Studies workshop actually at the end of April this year. So all of this stuff came from, you can trace back how I got there. You know, each step along the way was kind of a small step. But did I in any way plan to have an O'Reilly course about the iPython notebook when I started? Absolutely not. The scope of my ambition was literally, I would like to learn how to do this tool myself and make a 20-minute lunchtime talk, because I think some of my colleagues that I'm around might find it useful. And you can see how the part that I did plan was I identified a skill that's needed and desired in industry, and let's say a bridge between where I needed to be and where I currently was. The deliberate practice in gaining that skill and getting exposure to how people were currently trying to use that skill was a deliberate thing that I planned. So that piece was planned, and I think very useful. The part that wasn't planned was where that ended up going. And I don't think if you had told me 3 years ago, which was now 3 years ago, that this will be some aspect of my career that's gained career capital, I would have been incredibly surprised by that, because it felt at the time like I was starting from a very low starting slot. So there's a few takeaways here that I'd like to just recap. So as I said, the first step is I had initially focused on career capital. I wanted to gain my own personal skill with this tool. It was a tool and a skill that I thought I needed personally. There was a secondary focus, which was always second place to this primary one, which was being useful to other people and really not expecting anything in return. When I gave a lunchtime talk to my colleagues at Swinburne, in no way was I expecting anything in return from that. And same when I went to the Harley-Wood Winter School, where I was teaching first and second year grad students in Sydney before I left the country to work in data science. I expected nothing from that. The fact that it became useful and I had a talk ready for Insight completely was not on the radar until I was actually there and thought, actually, I have a way of doing something helpful here. Third point is make a lot of little bets. The time commitments for each of these things, if that's where the story ended, it would have been fine. I wouldn't have felt like I had decided I had a grand planned strategy to go forward and it's going to take a huge monumental effort. So if I tried from the beginning to make an O'Reilly course from a dead stop 3 years ago, I would have spent a lot of time, and there's a very good chance I wouldn't have had it. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do it, and I would have spent a lot of time and felt, frankly, like I wasted time and failed in some way. But because each step along the way was called a little bit, it was a reasonable amount of effort to go to the next stage. Okay, contrasting that, once you've made a number of little bets and you have some success in it, if you see an opportunity that's much larger, so like an O'Reilly screencast option, it makes sense, put in the effort, make a big bet at that point. But don't put this a big bet first. Try to start out your journey a little bit slower. My final point in terms of utility and futility here is just don't plan the outcome, plan the process. By that I mean plan the skill you're trying to gain, and don't think that you have an idea of where you're going to end up. There's a concept of mental models and mental frameworks. So I'm going to give you a number of ideas. If they resonate with you, if they feel they make sense to you, please use them. If not, just let them lie and continue on your journey. But mental frameworks they're ways of thinking about a problem, your situation, your career going forward. And you should think of them as almost trying on a hat. You're trying on a hat, you think about the problem with this framework or this way of thinking about the problem. And ponder it for a few minutes. Take some time to think about it, and then take off the hat and go into the next mental model and consider the next one. So I'm going to give you a number of mental models and some tips and tricks as well. And I would like to also point out, I know I've listed a bunch of books in the beginning, but there's 2 books by Cal Newport. The first one's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. Advance the slide. So Good. So Good They Can't Ignore You is a quote from Steve Martin, talking about his own life. And that's the title of his first book, and the second book is Deep Work. They cover different enough topics that it's worth reading both of them, and I recommend it in this order. It is a very interesting argument about how to build up what he calls career capital. And so I'll be talking a little bit about this in detail, but I do recommend going to the book for the full treatment. One of the points he makes repeatedly is if you want to have a great career, it requires having great career skills. And the way to get great career skills is through this thing called deep work. Now, deep work is essentially this formula here. Deep work is when you're doing professional activities, and you're doing them in a distraction-free or very focused state of mind. You are pushing your cognitive capabilities to the limits. This is an uncomfortable thing to do. You are not doing this 8 hours a day. This is a thing that you plan for maybe an hour and a half, 90 minutes in the morning. Maybe that's it each day. You can do 90 minutes of deep work where you're actively, uncomfortably pushing yourself to the limit of what you can do cognitively. This practice, if you can do it regularly, will create new value both for yourself and for the people you're working for. Obviously, it will improve your skill, and it's hard to replicate, meaning it will differentiate you from the people you're competing with. In contrast, shallow work is what people spend a lot of their time doing, which is non-cognitively demanding, a lot of logistical style tasks. It can be performed while distracted, so you can switch over to your Facebook tab and switch back, and you're not actually losing too much because you're doing shallow work at that moment. It's checking email, replying to things. And it doesn't create much new value in the world, and it's easy to replicate, so it's a thing that will keep you undifferentiated from your peers. So how do you actually do deep work? The basic recipe for this, and again I encourage you to read the book, but the basic recipe for this is to schedule on your calendar distraction-free professional activities that push your cognitive abilities. So Cal Newport himself is a computer scientist, professor, and for him deep work is proving theorems, writing papers. And so at the end of each hour-and-a-half session of deep work that he has planned, he has an outcome that he's trying to get to, and it is a, what's the word I'm looking for? If you plan if you schedule this time in a way that's in a sense sacred, and you say, I will only be working on this, the urge to be checking Facebook or some other distraction can be overwhelming, so he actually recommends scheduling distractions. So this is the time when I'm going to be looking at things that are distracting. So you have some release valve, because maintaining a state of deep focus for hours and hours is actually incredibly difficult. So do it for chunks that are small enough in time and schedule times for distractions. He also recommends having rituals. So deep work, so when you start your ritual, you start your deep work, having a ritual helps get you in the mindset. So, this is when this is happening, I close down the Wi-Fi or whatever it is you're doing to get started. You go into a different headspace, and this is a thing you can repeatedly do. And same thing for having a shutdown ritual in the day. He recommends saying, okay, at say 5:30. He obnoxiously doesn't work outside of like 9 to 5, and has published a number of books, and is a tenure track professor, and I think he's like 34. So he's obnoxious in a number of ways, but he has some very good ideas. And so he has a shutdown ritual where he does a brain dump of everything that's on his mind and worried about. And then he shuts down, and he's made a commitment to not go back to and look at any work until the following day, which is an interesting idea. Good, worth doing if you can do it. There's a quote from Sheryl Sandberg in Lean In that I think relates to these topics I just been talking about. So she writes, women, and she's specifically talking women here, but it works for anyone who has this mentality, I'm not ready to do that. So if women need to shift from thinking, I'm not ready to do that, to thinking, I want to do that, and I'll learn by doing it. So if you find that I'm not ready to do that being whatever it is, resonates with you as a thing holding you back from trying something, I encourage you to reframe it for yourself into thinking, I want to do that, and I'll learn it by doing it. Similar quote by Andrew Ng, who's a professor and formerly with Baidu. He has a similar idea. He says, I advise people to take on projects that you're only 70% qualified for, and then learn like crazy to bridge that 30% gap. So this is where you are, to do this kind of thing, you have to be in a state of deep work, gaining your career capital and your skills in a way that's very focused and useful. So there's this concept that I haven't seen talked about in the way that I think about it, because when I was thinking about my own career at different career points, I was thinking about something like this, and you can tell I'm a physicist here, it's like a maximize future career degrees of freedom, a more person-friendly way of saying this would be maximize your future career choice or choices. And let's consider a couple of career decision points that, the first one is, let's say, simple, the second one's a little bit more tricky. The first one is, in the summer before I started my grad school, I was a full-time bartender. I was a full-time bartender in Dallas and making more money than I was about to be making for the next 6 years. And so you might think, naively, that if you're making more money than this other option, the correct career choice here is tempting to stick with the thing that makes you more money. The thought process I went through, it shouldn't be foreign to you because people here have a PhD, but the thing I was thinking about specifically was, all right, so I'm 22 now, in 6 years I'll be 28 regardless. You can think of two paths for Jonathan. First path is Jonathan remains a bartender for 6 years, and is 28 years old and a bartender, and the other Jonathan is 28 years old again, and has a PhD in astrophysics, and has been paid less the whole time, by the way. And in that 6 years, the career options available to me as a bartender, now there's anything wrong with being a bartender, but the career options at the end of 6 years has not substantially changed from that first year of being a bartender. The options that were open to me when I'm 28 and a bartender is the same as when I was 22 and a bartender. So I haven't, in that case, has been no time increasing my future career choices. Contrast that with a PhD in astrophysics. It's almost too trivial a point to make explicitly, but I'll do it nonetheless. One of the things you couldn't do if you weren't is get a postdoc in astrophysics, for example. And so obviously there's entire vistas of career choices that have opened up from doing something like a PhD. So that's nice. So think about that in other contexts as well. So I actually, in my mind, think of it somewhat three-dimensionally. I feel like the hard work and effort that it takes to gain skill using deep work, attain useful skills in all aspects of your career is like climbing a difficult path, and then you can imagine you then have, so you climb a difficult cliff face. Once you get to the top, getting somewhere else is much easier. So I have now have a PhD in astrophysics postdoc experience. How hard is it for me to become a data scientist? And it might be, hard. It might be still a gradual slope from there, but it's not an insurmountable jump like it would be from saying a bartender the entire time. The other career point here is going from postdoc and into industry. And at this stage, it really comes down to what you perceive is your, let's say, opportunities for growth. When I was in Insight, going to get a job as a data scientist, I thought to myself, the number one thing that I'm missing in data science currently is not any particular technical skill, although I could always learn a whole bunch more there, is that I had a deep ignorance about what the ecosystem of data science in the tech industry was like. So I felt that, especially at the very beginning of my career, what I wanted to have more than anything was exposure to my options. So I feel lucky in that I got a job at a data science consulting firm, because for the past 2.5 years, every 3 to 6 months, I've been placed in different corporate environments, different technology stacks, solving different kinds of problems in different industries. And so I've had experience and been dropped in repeatedly to very different contexts, and this has given me a broad breadth of what the industry is like. And in 5 years, if I want to make a career decision choice that's different, I have in my mind an informed decision about what I find interesting or useful or inspiring about a particular company or even an industry. Now, if you're not in my situation where you feel like the ignorance of what is possible there is the thing that's driving you crazy at night, but maybe you already know that you have a skill that you think you just want to apply in an industry you're interested in, then by all means maximize that as soon as you can. So I'm not saying this is advice that you should take literally in the sense of you should make the same decisions I make. You should make the same considerations that I do. I think it's a useful framework for that. We're going to talk just very briefly about job happiness. And there's this theory, motivation, hygiene theory, also called two-factor theory. The theory itself isn't necessarily something I'm all that interested in, developed by this Frederick Hertzberg. But the basic idea is, he says that satisfaction with the job doesn't scale from dissatisfied to satisfied. There's actually two parallel tracks here. There's how motivated and satisfied are you with your job, and then there's another aspect of it called hygiene, where if those things are missing, it can cause deep dissatisfaction. So what do we mean by this? So if these hygiene factors are missing, you can be incredibly dissatisfied with your job. So say you, salary, work conditions, and status. If these things are maximized though, they don't lead to increased motivation. If you double, triple your salary, you're not feeling necessarily super extra motivated in the morning, maybe the first 2 weeks, but it's not a long-term thing that motivates you. What motivates people, is things that are intrinsic to the job. So challenging work, personal growth, gaining skills and career capital, having responsibility, involvement with decision making, having a sense of importance with people that you're in your organization. The typical example you can imagine here is someone who works for way below what's necessary as far as salary, but then a very rewarding job at, say, a nonprofit. They really love what they do, they feel motivated, they feel that they're making a difference in the world, they feel horribly underpaid, and this is how you can be both very satisfied with your job and very unsatisfied with your job. So the basic recommendation here is make sure the hygiene is taken care of, so that the things are at acceptable levels, the salary is at an acceptable level, that your work conditions are acceptable, And then from there, focus as much as you can on things that motivate you and are intrinsically motivating about the jobs you face. Here's just a very quick tip on recommending how you recharge. In your life, not necessarily your career, but life and everything, you have a stressful time with, you have stress that comes up frequently. If you have a stressful week and you decide to relax by cracking open a beer or drinking a glass of wine, that's fine. If you make that your habit, then the thing that you're defining yourself as how you recover from something stressful and unhealthy is the thing that is causing you to, let's say, be unhealthy overall. If you instead reframe this so that you do something healthy, like, oh, I have a frustrating week at work, so I go run, or I go lift weights, or I go row or swim or something. And then maybe you have a glass of wine later that night, because you enjoy a glass of wine, but it's not the way you recover from a stressful situation. These kinds of healthy habits integrated over 20, 30 years can really make a difference in your overall life. And my last mindset slide here is, you are not your work. And by that I mean, I try to as much as possible. I probably mess this up already, but I say things like, I work as an astrophysicist, or I work as a data scientist. And I try to keep that as a mindset. If you identify yourself personally as a person who is something, so I am an astrophysicist, if you then change jobs, or change industries, you'll have something like an existential crisis. And I don't mean that lightly, because people can have a very serious reaction to, if I'm no longer a professor, then what am I, right? So try to keep as much as you can some cognitive distance between what you do and how you think of yourself as a person. That's just a tip that I hope resonates with at least some of you. Last point before my concluding slide. These are a number of tips that I recommend. You can think of it like a checklist almost, to re-evaluate periodically throughout your life. Focus on gaining skills of communication, keeping your health happy, set both work and life boundaries, not just work boundaries. Take some time to learn financial literacy, and the short story is at least save a substantial fraction of your salary. I didn't give a dollar amount there, it doesn't matter what your salary number is. Save a substantial amount of it for your future. That scales independently then. Master a hobby. It's good to have something that's hard to do and satisfying in its own right, that's completely not work. And of course, nurture relationships. Final thoughts. Don't plan the outcome. It's very hard and I think a futile effort to plan where you will be in 5 years. But do plan the process. Decide what kind of skills do you want to have in 5 years? What kinds of things do you hope to be doing? Or even knowledge that you'll gain. Like, I would like to know more about the industry in 3 years. So don't plan the outcome, plan how you will plan the process. Try to be thoughtful and deliberate in how you spend your time. Schedule time for yourself to do deep work, to do focused study, and schedule time for distraction as well. Plan on increasing your future degrees of freedom for your career. Keep balance in life, so make sure you have sufficient motivation and hygiene in your job. So those things add up over time. And finally, acquire and use as many mental models as you can in your career. With that, thank you very much. My slide bit.ly/2017, all lowercase, -USC-Whitmore. And if you feel like I said something or didn't have anything there, please feel free to contact me and I'll add to that. This is a thing that I can update. With that, any questions? I'll let you grab this. Sure.
Thank you very much for this inspiring talk. So you decided to transition from academia to industry during your postdoc.
Yes, right.
And I was wondering, how are you balancing your responsibilities as a postdoc, because there's definitely more than
Yes.
40 hours a week with your personal growth and your personal freedom?
Okay, very good question. So, I think if you dedicate exactly 1 hour to deep work, in the sense of, I want to learn how to, let's say I have never never wrote a SQL query or SQL query before, and I know that's going to be a skill I need in industry. From 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., every day, Monday through Friday, or even 7 days a week, is time that I'm working on myself, and it's time boxed in that way. Then the amount of skill you can gain over even a few months with that kind of dedicated practice can be phenomenally useful. And then you can allow the rest of the time be spent on your duties as a postdoc or or whatever career you're in. So I think that's actually a sufficient amount of, if it's very focused and it's driven and it's every day, it's possible.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Hi, my name is Whitmore. I'm a Coast Guard here at USC. The question for you is, like, looking back, what could a Whitmore or UC San Diego could have done to make things easier? Or is there anything that they could have done at the school level to help you?
So the question was whether the school could have done more to help prepare. I think it depends. In my case, I guess yes, I could have taken classes or been pushed into taking classes that my future career would have benefited from. But I'm not sure that they're general enough to recommend necessarily. I did find the career conferences, the 2 PhD career conferences that I attended, I felt were very useful for me. So I was very glad to have that resource, and I'm glad that you guys are also taking advantage of that at USC. I think that's a good first step.
Hi, thanks. I want to thank you for the healthy life habit tips. I feel like those all figured overlooked, so thank you. I also wanted to ask, though, you mentioned that one of the things that you felt like you wanted more of was exposure to the lay of the land in terms of like what is out there.
Yes.
And I wonder if you have any tips on how to gain exposure, how to go about doing that.
So that's a very good question. Okay, so when people say networking, and it's like this, like people always flinch when they even say it themselves, maybe when they're recommending it. I think if you reframe what that means to be, you're focused on how you can become useful to other people, it helps everything. So if your entire first order mindset of what to do to network is being useful to people, and figuring out what kinds of things they would benefit from, that mindset will benefit you greatly. So that then transitions into, so let's say you wanted to go into data science, but you don't want to do a consulting job, that's fine. So could you find out tools, techniques, tips that you think other people who are in your same position would like to know, and give talks at meetups, or figure out ways that you can add value to other people who are in your same position. This forces you, first of all, to develop the skills and the knowledge yourself, but it gives you a way in of talking with people. So if you came up to me and said, hey, I'm going to give a talk in 2 weeks down in LA about data science, I just wanted to ask you a few questions if you had any suggestions on what, like 3 programming languages I should focus on. Now you have exposure to me, and you have a reason for talking with me. You're trying to help and create a talk for someone else, or for your own peers. But it's not just, you have a thing that you want to grab from me, and it's not just a one-sided, like, hey, I want to just annoy you until you say, okay, I'm done giving you something. So if you have the mindset of, I'm actively trying to learn this so that I can give it to other people, where you benefit from it as well as other people, that gives you a way in for making contacts with people that are in the industry you'd like to learn more about. Does that make sense? Okay, that's our information.
That'll be all. Chad, you can begin on the division of the room.
Thank you.